Great. Who here knows about the Gordian knot? Alexander the Great? Okay. So there's a story, for those who don't know, there's a story about in the old times there was a place called Gordia where there was a ruler, or sorry, an oracle actually, who said, hey, there's going to be a guy coming in, or a person coming in on with an ox, and could be a poor or rich, and that person will be the ruler of this country. That guy came in, and he was surprised because he was just a poor guy. He became the ruler of this place, and in honor of being given that much power, he made a Gordian knot that was so tight that tied his ox cart to Zeus' temple, who was the gods, as a symbol of him as a common man being given all this power, and then said that whoever can untie this knot is going to rule all of Asia. And apparently Alexander the Great heard about this and came by and put all his men on this Gordian knot and said, hey, we need to solve this, fix it. And they tried, no one could because this was a really complicated knot. And then he came by and then said, hey, and he just took this sword and just cut it over and said, hey, it doesn't matter if I untie it as long as it gets apart, problem solved. And here we go, and then becomes the ruler of Asia. So I'm not saying we're going to rule the world with Java, even though that could be fun. But I do say that maybe Java has a Gordian knot in the sense that we built up this massive ecosystem over 25 years, and every year we add a new layer of a new technology, a new thing, and it just becomes harder and harder to use. Because, I don't know, how many here likes to code Java? Like it's fun and interesting? Most of you? Who thinks it's an easy language to get started with and try out? No one. So basically everyone likes it, but everyone can't get started. And there's also another thing is everyone is getting older. And for some reason people are doing Python and NPM and that kind of thing. And I wondered why that is. Part of that is probably the Gordian knot. And we have this, complexity. So I'm claiming that Java has a Gordian knot that could be interesting to take a stab at. So a while ago, I actually went on Reddit, because that's the place to get all news today, and asked questions like, hey, what's the thing that's hard for you to learn as a student about Java? And the classical one, which is, in Python, I guess you print hello world, and in Java, I have to know about public class main, static main, system out. Even if it's hard, I have to also learn about packets. Some of the stuff hasn't been fixed now. This was 2 years ago. This was before Java 23 came out. But I bet you, if you ask people today, that's probably one of the main things. Like just the basic stuff is hard. Another one is just installing Java. I realized this when I took a year off a while ago. I came back, been doing Java for 15, 17 years, took a year break, came back and say, hey, I have to install Java. I was like, wait, which JDK of the 20, not 20, but maybe like 10 to choose between? Which IDE, which build tool, what is it I need to do? Stuff you just kind of learn after going through the pain. But if you are like fresh, this is really tricky. And then there's stuff like, I learned the thing to do it in the IDE, but I go outside and like, how do you get a jar? How do you run the jar? How do I give you a jar so you can run it? All that basic stuff is, what I want to cut, the Java's Gordian knot. And the sword I'm going to wield for this is a tool called jbang that I started writing a few years back. And we're going to start with the basics. So to install jbang needs to be really, really simple. This is one of the simplest ways to do it. You curl as a one-liner. And mind you, there's 20 other ways to install it, but it is all different ways we'll get to. But it's a one-liner. Oh, go on. And what they'll do is download and configure jbang. And what that means is download a 6 megabyte jar and put a bash script or a batch script, depending on OS, on your path. And now you can call it. And the first time you call jbang, it will look for Java on your system. If you have Java, I trust that. If you don't, I'll bring you one to you. And you don't have to know what it is, but I guarantee you it's free and it's open source. Right? So there's no like danger associated with it. Just to give an example, this is a video I made once of running in a Docker container. It has no Java, no jbang. I run the line. So this could be on your friend's laptop or on your new machine or a cloud instance or somewhere. You need to get some Java, and you're like, how do you get it? This is saying Java 11 because I didn't have time to record it, because I got asked on Thursday if I could do this talk. So blame Steph. We run it and restart the shell, and now we can run Java command on the command line. So this is using jbang-c, which is just writing Java, which you can do in Python and NPM and other stuff, and now you can do it in Java too. And I think I'm making one more example where I'm saying, hey, it's not just Java strings. I can also take arguments to the actual script I'm running. This is not the thing I'm going to expect many people to do. I just made it out of like showing that Java doesn't have to be hard to get to use. So, and I said that it has to be easy to get. So this was the easiest way, but you can also get it in many different ways. So you'll see we have all the major platforms, so Windows, Linux, and Mac, and all the different package managers you can think of if you want to. But you will also have there's Docker containers, there's GitHub Actions, there's a Maven plugin, there's a Gradle plugin. You can even run it from JavaScript and Python, because if you're stuck over there, you at least can get back to Java and do those things in that sense. So there's no excuse for running Java anymore. You can do it anywhere with jbang. So back to the hello world. I said this is how jbang from early days could do Java, which was the hard part. And this is using arguments. So this is just, if there's anyone from OpenJDK, because I've heard few people giving talks saying JShell should not be used for writing command line tools. I didn't listen. So with the use -c, I used JShell behind the scenes, and I convinced JShell that you can handle arguments, which JShell can't do. And even more important, I don't have to have a file to create, coming back to just easy to get started. I just want to say jbang only use JShell in this one specific instance. Otherwise, it's full-blown real Java, not JShell Java. And there's no public static class main, which is no longer sexy, because you can do that in others. We'll come back to that. But the main other thing is that so we now got installed Java. We have ability to write JavaScript, or not JavaScript, but Java space script. But there's another challenge that we've built on top of this Java Gordonot is, one on Monday I need to use Java 8. On Thursday is Java 21, and by the way, Java 23 came out. How do I try this out? Again, you have to go back and find the right JDK and use SDKman or whatever you've learned to do over your 5-10 years of experience. And jbang is just tell which Java you want to do. If you have it on a system, I'll use it. If don't, I'll go get it from that magical place of free and open source distributions. And by the way, it's Fuji API I use to go get the right one, if anyone's curious. And then, for example, here jbang -Java 21 -I means interactive. I get a JShell version 21, and off you go. So I said Java 23. So I think this was actually last year. I feel like I was here, and last year DevOps they introduced Java 22 with preview for main, naked main. I was 21. This means that today in modern Java, you can do void main println hello world, which is awesome. What they don't show is you also have to do. I've kind of so it's like Java -- enable preview -- source 23, then the file, and you can go right. In jbang, I've shortened a bit down. I can say the specific version of Java and enable preview. We'll do that for you. But I don't like the fact that this is put now on the user to call. Like, what if I just want to run this thing? So I'm using jbang. We have these directives, which are just comments in the Java code. So it will work in any IDE. Doesn't pollute anything. And this just does the same thing, saying, hey, I need Java 23 at minimum, and I want to enable preview, and I do hello world, and now you can just call it and not have to know what's in that script. Right? That makes the way to where jbang will be much more portable across these things. Okay. And for those who might have heard about jbang before, most of the stuff I've been, let's say, pushing about jbang is the ability to run as a script. So you see here in the top, this is a / user bin env, which is just like a little bash trick. That's so I can run this thing with like .app Java. Doesn't have to be there, but if I want to. And then, there you go. You also can reference dependencies in those Java files. Again, these are just comments, so it works in any IDE. That's a goal of jbang, that any Java stuff we touch with should not be magical. Like it should just work with any IDE, any tool chain, that kind of thing. Jbang is a very, very thin, like it doesn't touch Java. It uses Java, but it just delegates. So therefore, you're not trying to come up with a new syntax or that kind of thing. So anyway, so this allows you to write Java code, and then you can refer to these annotations. And of course, you can also do that with Java 23, but you first have to get the library, or any Java version, get the library, put it in a lib directory, add it to command line, that whole shebang, or use a Maven tool or Gradle tool, or whatever you want to do. With jbang, you don't have to do that. And so when you run it, so this could be jbang app Java, or in this case, I'm running it directly. It will go out, resolve the dependencies, build a jar, and run that jar. Right? So I don't have to call Java C or Java. I just run with jbang. And if I run it again, it won't rebuild, because I know the timestamp of the file, I know what's changed or not, and therefore it'll be a fast second run, and it'll be a full app. If you use Java 23 modules, they do some caching, but they don't do it between runs. And of course, all this stuff works since Java 8, so you can live in Java 23 world with jbang, even if you are in Java 8. By the way, who here is still stuck on Java 8? 2 people. Okay, I'm sorry, but you can still run jbang. So, okay. Other top is editing. So once you've got the stuff to run on your machine, you want to edit. And again, you can go and figure out which of the many IDEs out there you want to run. jbang will work with almost all of them. Again, because we don't try and be special. But if you run edit, we will actually, if there's no IDE that we can find, we will actually offer to install VS Codium, which is a fork of VS Code that is free and open to distribute. And it will set up the right IDE for you. You can also use your existing if you want to, but the cool thing is then you're up and running and have an IDE on your machine. Again, I've tested this multiple times on my parents' computer when they get a new one to see if I can get to develop Java on this machine within 5 minutes, and it has so far not failed. So that's a good little test. We have dedicated plugins for IntelliJ. So dedicated means here that it understands the syntax, the -- Java, the dependencies, and just kind of works from within the IDE. So there's IntelliJ, there's VS Code, and VS Studio, similar Eclipse also works. But even if you don't have access to an IDE or can't install it, so default jbang will assume you have an IDE because that experience is so much better. But you can also do this trick called a sandbox, and then we will take the Java file or the project and set up a Gradle project and then import that, which then can be used in any IDE that you can use Gradle in. Okay, and then debugging. Who here knows by heart how you run a debugger in Java? By heart? So you know Java does, I already forgotten the mile-long command line to do. You always fall back to the IDE to do it for you, or the tool. But of course, with jbang, it's just that's debug, because that command line has been the same for, I think, 15, 20 years. So why not just make that the default? So we do that. So any application that can be run by jbang can be debugged that way. Okay, so what just happened? I think I used more than 5 minutes, but at least the idea is that within 5 minutes of installing jbang, you can create, edit, run, and debug Java without having to choose JDK, without having to call a classical build tool, no IDE, just jbang. This does not mean that I don't like Maven or Gradle. You should definitely use it for bigger projects. That's not what this is about. It's just that getting starter experience is just inherently much simpler with jbang. And this part I just talked about is actually the one I'm least interested in to talk about today. But it's just, this is the basic stuff we have, right? But we can go further, and this is the real cutting the Gordian knot, which I want to entitle you to, is that yes, we can do these one-liner scripts and compare to Python or NPM and that kind of thing. Yes, I can actually run a Quarkus application with a script, or a Spring Boot application, or a Micronaut, or anything, because it's just Java. It's just dependencies that jbang can wire up for you. Let me go here. I can even go. So let's see. We have this is. Oh, will this work? So actually, Amazon, they actually have in their example catalog, there is how to run a serverless jbang script. Right? So in the official samples of Amazon, that is how you can use jbang to run in Amazon Lambda. So you can even do, function programming. With and let's go back. Here we go. But the whole thing is we can run all the things. So I can run a one-line script. I can run a Java script, Java space script on there. I can also run Kotlin and Groovy. I don't have examples for it, but the same mechanism works. I can run JShell. And the first three here, these are just the fun stuff jbang enables. But I can also just run any jar, right? So anything you already have on your machine that you built, jbang can run. And you can add dependencies, right? Dash steps. You can debug it. You can the whole thing, and not just a jar that's on your disk, but you can also refer to Maven coordinates. And suddenly, when you have Maven coordinates, not only can I go to Maven Central, but I can also go to your corporate internal repository and get the bits from there. So if you can imagine that you have a CI system where you have some utilities that you've written, and you need, how do I set this up? You can just use jbang to kind of uniform all that setup for you. And use your deployed Java code that you've used somewhere. Right? We also got a step further, and you don't even have to package it up as a jar or put it on a file somewhere. You can also just publish it in a GitHub repository as a Java file and that kind of thing. Or even go so crazy to have a way to point to a URL and say, hey, when I point to this website, run it for me. Right? Again, a bit more exotic, but the thing is that you can basically imagine jbang can enable you to distribute any kind of Java application or script to anyone, as long as you have jbang installed. And then we talk about installing. So first thing is to be able to run, but another thing I always tool envy is for pip install or go install or npm install. Something I remember Java people say, no, that's a horrible thing. But no, it's not. It's like we are used to downloading Maven dependencies from left and right, but we make it super hard to actually run. And therefore, we've been on this holy grail of compiling for native, which have use cases. But one of the main things is, hey, I want to be able to run my Java applications. Well, why not just have that tool in the runtime to do it for you, which jbang does. And again, mind you, jbang is a small, very small 6 megabyte download, and then it will just work for anything out there. So anything I've shown you that you can run, you can also install. So here I'm saying app install my app, and that could be a script, a jar, URL, something. And now from that point on, my app is now available, so I don't, as a user, see jbang or Java in that sense. We use that for Quarkus. I work on Quarkus too. So the CLI in Quarkus is a Java application built by Quarkus, a Maven project that produces a jar, publishes it in the Maven repository. And we then have a way, and I'll come back to how you do this, and to give it a shorthand name. So it could also just be the full GAV, but here I'm using alias. And now after you run this, you can run Quarkus on the command line. So, and this is about all the sharing and kids caring. So we have this notion of a jbang catalog. A jbang catalog is literally just a JSON file that says, hey, here's a shorthand name that points to some script or a jar file or a group artifact ID. It can also be a repository. So the jbang catalog JSON can be anywhere. It could be on a URL. It could be on a website like jbang dev/jbang catalog, or it could be Git repository, or it could be in a top level in the organization. So for example, to do this thing with jbang env at jbang dev, which is a tool, I'll just show you how that works, just so now I've been talking so much just so I can actually run. This does exist. So if I do jbang env, it will actually dump all my environment. Right? So what this thing is, the env at jbang dev, is, so the jbang dev organization in GitHub. Come on. I can't spell. Come on, catalog. There. There's literally just a JSON file here. Come on. There we go. How hard is it to spell to catalog? That's apparently very hard. Here you go. So you see, jbang has a bunch of stuff to show off. Right? But that's all there is to it. By having that file, we suddenly can do these things. Right? And then on top, which I won't have time to touch on in these 30 minutes, but you can also have templates. So you can have like getting started with this project, or here standard ways to write for this code. You can also put in these templates, in these catalogs. So what I wanted to show is there's a bunch of actually real stuff out there that does this. So Microsoft has a catalog wherein you can run the Minecraft server directly with jbang. The Playwright CLI is also in here. Right? So you can go jbang app install Playwright, and now you have access to the Playwright. For those who don't know Playwright, this is like the thing to unit test, what's it called, robot drive your browsers. Apple literally just this morning, Apple, or not Apple, but Apple, the Apple PKL repository has a jbang catalog. So now you can go jbang app install PKL at Apple PKL, and now the PKL command line is there, and you can run. And again, just stop for a second and think about like if this had been a normal case, you would have gone to, okay, let's find the PKL website and go download the binary, put it in the path, or find the right package driver and kind of thing. And it's the only thing you're actually getting is a jar. Right? So make that easy. That's what jbang does. JRelease, a very special product, or have a close relationship to that product. He has a catalog, again, under github.com/jreleaser, where he has jrelease available as a name, so you get the latest, greatest release, or you can use jrelease snapshot, and you get a snapshot build, because he has this jrelease about releasing binaries, and he releases a jbang catalog that has his main release and a snapshot every day. Right? Again, this is just jrelease itself is actually about building binaries and make it easy to install, but even there's a benefit of having it, because you don't have to install and set anything else. You can just try things out. JLlama is a product that is being presented here at Devox, where again, in his instructions, there is how to install jbang, and then just run JLlama, and boot up that thing. And again, that means that from a machine that has nothing, you install jbang, and you run these 2 lines, and you have a full running inference server in Java, and no need to deal with Python or NPM or even all the IDEs and runtimes of Java. Unit testing. Early ones, the JUnit team. I don't know how many here knows there is a CLI for JUnit you can download and install. Yeah, it's hard to find. But with jbang, you can just go jbang install the CLI, and then you have it. And just to show that in action, I have a little testing project. So again, I'm going back to scripting here, like a calculator with a multiply, and then I have a calculator test. These are some unit tests, and you'll see this is just pure Java. Like the calculator, there's nothing in it. Calculator test is a unit test that is using JUnit. It is including the sources for calculator, and then normal standard Java stuff. And then I just have a just file because this line is a bit long. But it just says JUnit, meaning I have installed JUnit, jbang app install JUnit. So execute, scan the class path, and then give the class path. And see here, this is becoming a little meta. I'm using jbang to calculate the class path of the calculator test. And you can imagine that will output list of dependencies. And now if I just call, what was it called? Oh, just test. Oh, I have to go to the right directory. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad demo. Right. You see, that's the command line it executed. And it just runs the unit test. So let me just make this, yeah, anyway. That's it. And just for you to, I'll take that little command there just to see what it actually did. And you'll see it just prints out the class path. Right? And if I go and say -fresh, which is the magical word to tell jbang ignore your caches, you'll see it goes and resolve the dependencies. And of course it goes fast here because I already have dependency on disk. But if I nuke my main directory, it will start going and do that. Right? So now we start to combine, like I can go and use JUnit without having to install Maven and Gradle to run my test, and then my CLI test, CLI install, JUnit CLI is able to then take a class path. Where do you get a class path from? Well, jbang can give you one based on the dependency. It's another way of thinking that is not like in normal you have, I have to have a Maven plugin or a Gradle plugin to wire things up. Here we're just using like good old command line tools and combine them together. It's not the only way, but I think it's an option that should be available and allows for some very interesting use cases. Where did my browser go? That's not the right browser. Go away. There we go. Jupyter Java is another product I've made that makes it super easy to install a Jupyter kernel. Jupyter kernel is these things that get you to write Python or JavaScript or Java in Jupyter notebooks. It's run with jbang, but you don't have time to go into detail. But the cool thing is since it's using jbang to run the Jupyter kernels, I can run these Jupyter kernels in Google Colab or Red Hat OpenShift AI or that kind of thing that has no Java installed. But since it's just a Linux container, I can do these kind of things with jbang. Another thing, we had agent loading, so I can refer to agents the same way. And I'm running out of time, so the thing I actually want to ask you for is to go and figure out, like, of all the stuff you have out there, remember, anyone can do this. You can take your app, you can take someone else's app and make it available as a jbang catalog and then run. And the only thing you need to do is use a template from jbang, and it will set up a catalog for you, and you go and add your Maven dependency to it. And now you can publish it. You can, of course, also just tell your people to run the full jbang GAV, but it's a bit long. And anyway, You can even go and get an app store. We have an app store that gets all jbang catalog and GitHub and show. The problem is we have now so many jbang catalogs that this thing doesn't scale anymore. So last year I made a thing called jbang hub, which is a catalog of catalogs. There we go. And you'll see there's a bunch of stuff in here which I don't even have time to get to, right? But there is a catalog you can submit to, and people can then, you can expand the list of things you can do with this stuff. So anyway, I just want to say jbang is a fast way to get started with Java. Let's write anything from one-liners to full microservices. Let's you run and install any Java app, yours or someone else's. And please try it out and share. And I believe jbang can help cut the golden knot. And yeah. This is all the I know there's 2 talks that is going to mention jbang in some form, at least I hope, later, that is doing this thing. They not use all the scripting of jbang, they just use the fact that they can make it easy for people to get to. And yeah, my time is up. Thank you.